introduce myself. My name is Oliver Krause. I am the moderator for this session on ESG, innovation, investment, and impact. I want to quickly introduce myself. So I run Advantum Ventures with an advisory on innovation and transformation and a token economy venture studio entitled Inc. And one of my key projects over recent years has been greenbase.io, where we unlock private capital for green tech funds and ventures. And I'm very honored that we have a lot of high-profile speakers today in our session in 3 panels. We actually curated that on very short notice. That's a bit Davos style, I think, within a week or so.
It was midterm for Davos.
Midterm for Davos. It's not like we met last night and then we are here convening for a panel. But nonetheless, let me maybe frame the discussion. I think one of the key issues here when we have this headline ESG is that ESG has become one of the most probably politicized terms in this whole debate around sustainability. And that's why I thought that it's a good idea that if we frame that discussion and shape that discussion around the real substance, and that means that we're going to talk in the first panel about innovation, innovative technologies that really have the potential to shape the world and contribute to an outcome. In the second panel, which is on ESG finance and scaling, we will focus more on the capital stack. How is that financed and what are the challenges in that space? And in the third panel, we will look into ESG reporting and institutional practice, which is more about how is that actually measured, what if something has to be changed, what needs to be changed. And with that, I really want to kick that off and start with the first panel on ESG innovation. I'm really honored that we could win a few very strong entrepreneurs and founders here for the panel, and want to just start off and ask each of you for a quick intro about yourself. How did you come to the space? What is your key venture you want to talk about today? What sets that apart? What are key challenges you were facing to date? How do you overcome that? And then we go in the next round. So why don't you just start, Erik?
Thank you. Your questions, I'll only take 2 hours now for those introductory questions. So good morning, everybody. It's great to be back here again. Davos, I love the place, I love the spirit, I love the vibe, everything. Obviously, in the last 1-2 years, things changed a little bit. When you said ESG, which was kind of for the last 10 years an imprint on Davos, changed a little bit with the flow of global politics. So that is something definitely what you sense. And it's not all about ESG, not all about let's make the world a better place, let's just do it because it has to be done. But everything is now recalibrated within, or call it all this in the energy space, the energy security, the safety, the sovereignty, and all of it in the flow of the global developments. So
maybe before you jump into the context, maybe a bit about you, Erik Schaefer, Green Investors.
Thank you. Thank you. Erik Schaefer, Green Investors, a family office based out of Hamburg and Abu Dhabi. We go into green investments since about 15 years now. And as you asked, what are you representing today? So we have different verticals. And one of them is the new topic of white hydrogen, geological hydrogen. And you asked me that I'm Mr. White Hydrogen out of the green investor spectrum for the day.
Exactly. So thanks a lot for that. Maybe when, and you can, happy that we maybe dive at this point a little bit deeper into the specific venture, because I was really impressed when you told me in our conversation a couple of days ago that white hydrogen really has the potential to bring, let's say, 220,000 years of global energy supply in a carbon neutral way to our energy system. So maybe you can expand a little bit on that and on your specific venture.
Thank you. Well, the 220,000 years was not me saying, it was the University of Oxford. Last year they said, we have hydrogen in the crust and in the mantle of the Earth. Nobody has ever looked into it for the last, couple of thousand years, which could provide sufficient energy for today's energy need of the planet for the next 220,000 years. It doesn't matter if it's only for 1,000 years or something, but it's massive. That is important. And the good thing is, if it works, and it's still an if, there are 50 companies doing it now on the planet, like our portfolio company, which I'm representing today. If it works, then this hydrogen will be produced for less than $1 per kilo, which means it's a fraction of today's hydrogen prices. Green hydrogen in north of Europe, where I live, is like 10 euros per kilo with wind and sun. It could go down to 3 to 4 euros, but less than €1 or less than $1 per kilo is about half the amount of fossil fuels. And this will be the big change.
I think, yeah, very, very interesting, I think. And with that, maybe over to you, Scott. We just do it in that way. You are working on solar, and that's also quite impressive what you are aspiring to achieve. So tell us more about you and what you're doing.
Thank you. So I'm Scott Wharton, CEO of Tandem PV. I'm a 5-time serial entrepreneur, so there's clearly something wrong with me. I want to keep doing it again. And this is my fourth time at unDavos, so that it must be okay to keep coming back. So Tandem PV is a next-generation solar panel manufacturer, and we're using a completely new material science called perovskites that allows us to have 40% more power than a traditional solar panel. So we're already about 30% efficiency, where the current solar panels are at 22. And we are 200 times thinner than a traditional panel, use about 10% of the energy. So it's a leapfrog to revolutionize solar and make it even cheaper. And then the last thing is we manufacture in the United States. So as you know, most solar today comes from China, the vast majority of it. So we're trying to leapfrog and bring solar manufacturing and leadership back to the West.
Cool. So
we raised $87 million, and
exactly.
we built our first factory now. So people ask, where is it? We are commercializing it now and getting ready to sell. And I guess, but durability, we're at 1% a year durability, which is in line with other solar panels. So getting ready to sell, not actually a science project anymore.
Very, very impressive, I think. And with that, over to Kennedy Ricci.
Hello, everybody. Appreciate you coming. My name is Kennedy Ricci. I'm the president of 4Air. We work in the aviation space on sustainability programs, very closely with airlines and aircraft operators. We started to look at how do we supply whatever the future solutions are going to be. So starting with offsets today to SAF tomorrow to electric and hydrogen aviation, what do we need to do today to make that a reality? So we've invested in electric aircraft manufacturers, but I'm going to talk to you today about one of the portfolio companies on the sustainable aviation fuel side. So SAF is a way that you can essentially recycle carbon that's already in the atmosphere. So you're using the same fuel. You don't need to modify the aircraft, the fuel tanks, the fuel trucks. All the infrastructure is the same. We're just able to use a kerosene that comes from a carbon source that's already in the atmosphere or in the biosphere. So we have a technology we invested in that allows you to essentially take sawdust and turn it into a biocrude that we then run through normal refineries. So rather than just replacing jet fuel, you're actually making renewable gasoline, diesel, maritime fuel, and kerosene. So it gives us the opportunity to be about 50% cheaper than what the leading SAF technologies are today. We've got our first facility in the US at a pilot scale, and then working on a first commercial facility here in Europe. We've got the opportunity as kind of our work with the operators that we have the customers. We can provide a unique path to de-risking that there are people who will pay for it. We just need the support to actually get the project built. Yeah.
And what does that mean in terms of investment size?
So we're looking for about 25 million right now for kind of the pre-project activities, and it'll be about $100 million total.
Right. Okay. So, and with that, Mikkel, it's to you.
Yes, my name is Mikkel Kiil. I represent a company called Green2X, a Danish biofuel company. I come out of not the technical part of it, started my career with McKinsey & Company and then moved into the energy space. And I think what I realized was that if you want to do something for the green transition, I think we all agree that that's important. It might not be from regulation in ESG. We need to have some technologies that are competitive with fossil. So it will be adopted, and it also needs to be scalable, so there will be enough in the market for the demand that will be there. And then I came across, together with a few investors, on this technology that can scale biofuels through a methane production, so it's anaerobic digestion. Conventional biogas production is from waste product. It's waste treated, especially in Denmark, from manure, which is great. We need to treat the waste products there. Else the methane would go out in the air. However, it's 95% water and 5% volatile solid, and it's a one-through process when you have normal biogas production. We have a technology where you can basically build this as a chemical factory. You can recirculate, so you get to a carbon utilization of 100%, and then you can use single feedstock. In this case, we start with straw, but it could be anything from nature, which have a significantly higher energy density than you would see in manure. So we started this up both doing basically the, you could say, proof of concept of the technology, while actually starting building the first site, getting the permits ready, etc. So we are anything from a technology developer to a energy product developer that also wants to build, own, and operate these plants. We landed a lead investor early or late last year, closed this year, being Equinor, together with the Danish state in a setup called IFO. So we basically got funded on the technology part of it, and now start talking about the rollout plan, which will start with the first SPV in Denmark, place called Vordingborg. The next place will be in Malmö, part of the Copenhagen-Malmö port. So what we're looking for now is basically co-investors with Equinor for building future sites on this product. And the scalability, just to give you an idea of that, the first plant will be around half the size of a normal biogas plant, but from a production point of view, it will produce 4 times more than the largest biogas plant today. So just for plant number 1, it will cover around 10% of the Danish gas consumption. That's what we do.
Very, very impressive. I think all 4 speakers presented here very impressive approaches and enterprises, technologies. So maybe let's just continue, Mikkel. Here in one sentence, what a problem basically your specific technology solves that others basically don't solve. Maybe you can summarize that and highlight that maybe again. And is there a technological risk to it that you are still facing, or how would I see that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think from what we solved from a technical point of view, I think from straw, the biggest challenge until now has been treating straw in an anaerobic digester. Normally you would have a floating layer when you put straw in, and you need to be able to have an anaerobic digestion started. It's basically treating lignin, which is difficult. I think we have a solution for that. So all the technical stuff is actually not a focus for us right now. We are doing the last part of the engineering part. How do you then scale it? And that is progressing quite well. So I think the main problem that we are solving right now, that's actually from a business point of view. What we have seen until now is that you can do biogas, but you do not have supply enough to actually support the demand you see in Europe, and that will increase, especially from the maritime sector. So creating volume, and the second part is almost all biomethane today is subsidized. I don't think that's a long-term sustainable solution. So you need to get to a competitive level, and when you can scale it and have a carbon utilization of 100%, we get to a level of the first of a kind plant with a unit cost that is around 50% of what you see in conventional biogas today. And then it becomes competitive. And I think that's the two challenges that we're solving for right now, cost and volume.
Yeah, I think it's very...
more than one sentence, I know
yeah, no, but I think a very insightful statement here, and it's very clear we need cost-competitive, economically viable solutions, and I think you all have that in mind. And with that, maybe just make the roll back here to Kennedy Ricci. When you look at your technological challenges, or are there any technological challenges here? How do you address them? And also in terms maybe of economic feasibility, how do you see that market? Because maybe a quick background here, I personally have been looking and working for a synthetic fuels venture as well, and it proved to be quite challenging to get that out in the market, although this was focused, so to speak, more on transportation, so trucks and cars. Yeah.
No, it's a great point. I think technology and cost, I mean, we've had a unique chance to see what's out there because we've actually invested in a few technologies, but this one at Alder Renewables is one that we've really doubled down on, because of the technology maturity of a lot of the components you're bringing together. So already out there, there's a technology called pyrolysis, which takes that sawdust and turns it into a pyrolysis oil. And for a long time, people have been trying to process that pyrolysis oil in a refinery because it saves you having to build all the distillation and product finishing technologies. You just want to leverage what's already there. So they are really kind of fixing and solving that missing piece, and it's a very simple technology that allows you to take the pyrolysis oil and upgrade it to something you can co-process in a refinery. So now that saves you, in terms of scalability, all of the capex you would need to build distillation and that finishing fuels product. Something else around that is being able to replace kind of that crude barrel, not just the kerosene out of it, makes it a lot more competitive because you're giving the refiner optionality on meeting various mandates, not just aviation-related ones. So, I mean, we've seen that with other technologies. You know, fuel today, for easy math, is called $1,000 a ton. Some of the new technologies get you up to $10,000 per ton. So we need to get something that's, you know, 1,000 to 2,000 in that range where, you know, SAF is today.
Yeah. Very good. So with that, over to you, Scott. What's your take on the tech risk and the economic aspects?
I think the key technical challenges are you need to make a new solar panel, because the current ones are very good and last a long time. You need to make it high performance, because if it's not better, who cares? You need to make it very durable, because the current panels can go to 25 or 30 years to 80% performance. And then you need to make it manufacturable. And I think what you find when you look out in the press, you'll see a lot of announcements where people have very high performance, but it's usually on a little dot that can't be manufactured and has no durability. So where we've cracked the code is we're able to show this 25 years, 30 years durability, and be able to manufacture it and have high performance at the same time. And I think the other thing that we've done is we're not competing directly with the current supply chain that is primarily from China. We're complementing it. So if you think about a current solar panel, to oversimplify it, there are two pieces of glass. There's a silicon cell, some cells in the middle, and then there's some glue and encapsulants and stuff. So what we do is we take the top glass and we put a 1 micron thick coating on it. And it weighs 2 grams, even though it's the size of a door. And that small amount of technology adds to 40% more power. So we're leveraging and building on top of the existing supply chain from China, which is making it really better. So we don't have to compete head to head so much as complementing it.
Is that a patented technology, patented approach?
Yeah, we've got a whole bunch of patents.
All right. Yeah, cool. So, and with that same question, technology risk and also commercial, you mentioned already, but maybe you can...
We have no technology risk. We just drill, take it out, and make billions.
Okay, a lot of things can go wrong. I can imagine.
Get your checkbook out.
Laughing? No, it hasn't been done yet, this natural hydrogen. Many people are out there, 3 or 4 stock exchange listed companies who give it a try. There is one well in Mali that has been discovered by coincidence 25 years ago, and that is producing hydrogen ever since. So that is, and it's replenishing, produces a little bit of hydrogen more every single year. So therefore we are with our company, which is active in Oman, UAE, in this part of the world, We already know through drilling that the hydrogen is there, and we know about the quantities, in our case around 100 million tons of hydrogen, but what we don't know is the flow rates, how and the mightiness of one single well. So how many wells do you need to drill? One well is $50 million. So this is now the next step. And that is what we are doing these days. And one day, one of the parties which is out there, a lot activity happening in America, there are several parts of the world where you find this specific rock which contains hydrogen. I believe in the course of this year, someone will find hydrogen, and then this will be what I call the Klondike moment. When 150 years ago people went to California to look for gold in Klondike, when the first company said, here's gold, then the gold rush began. Everybody came. And this is what will happen in this industry, the natural hydrogen industry.
Wow. So you mentioned the capital need. So what must be proven to actually attract that capital?
That is the chicken and the egg with many of these projects. At the moment, you need crazy people, say like us, like the founders, like people who just believe in it and say, we'll just do it. Somebody has to do it, otherwise it will not be done. And that is the reason why the big boys are waiting, like the big oil and gas, the mining companies, the trading houses. Everybody is looking into it, but it's like you stand around a swimming pool, everybody says, you jump first and tell us if the water is nice and warm, then we'll jump in. So that is where we are at the moment. It needs, obviously, seasoned people. The team we are supporting are 4 seasoned people, 2 of the best geologists and drilling engineers of the world. They've done it 25 years for big oil and gas, for carbon capture technologies, which is very close to hydrogen drilling. But it's a borrowed reputation until you really proved it.
Yeah, maybe one aspect, I don't know whether we mentioned that in the discussion before, but the interesting thing about this white hydrogen topic is that it's carbon neutral because you are basically storing CO2 in the rock, basically, where you drill the hole. I wasn't aware of this, so maybe that's worthwhile to mention here.
No, it's even carbon negative because, number one, has a much smaller ecological footprint than green hydrogen production. Because for green, you need to produce solar panels, and for solar panels, you need to, get out natural resources, or you need to build windmills and everything. So you start with a carbon negative thing once you start. From there on, you produce clean hydrogen. This is here, sorry, oversimplified. You drill a hole, put a tap on it, and then put a barrel under it and take it out. Sorry, my geologists will kill me for this. I just continue to say it this way. But therefore, it starts already with a smaller carbon footprint. But the good thing is that same rock, ultramafic rock, it's an iron-containing rock. That same rock where the hydrogen comes out, once it's empty, you can press CO2 in it, and it's not only carbon capture and storage, but carbon capture and mineralization. The minerals in it crack the CO2 molecule, release the O2, it does the same thing like the trees outside there, produces pure oxygen, and the C is mineralized, carbonized into a carbonate. It's in the rock. Sometimes you see these rocks with these white veins in it. That is CO2.
Yeah.
So therefore, the rocks of Oman, for instance, would be sufficient to store all CO2 production of today's emissions for the next 1,000 years. That is unbelievable amount. So therefore, it's in the essence, this sort of hydrogen production is carbon negative. And one final half sentence to this. For us as investors, it reduces the investment risk. Because if we don't find hydrogen, we always can use the same hole to store and mineralize CO2, which already makes it an investment case in itself.
All right. Very, very impressive. So, look, we already are relatively advanced in time. So I want to maybe pass it on to Scott next. Where does your solution maybe have still uncomfortable trade-offs? Let's say, is it energy intensities, resource use, or is there anything that holds you basically back from scaling it, or you are basically full confident that you can move on and capital is the only constraint? Yeah.
Well, there are things that hold us back. There's capital, but it's not the supplies. So we're using basically no rare earth minerals or metals or mining. So it's something that we can mix in a lab. So I saw a study that said that you could make, with what we have today, you can make over 1 terawatt per year, which is the existing installed base of solar. And there's plenty to make perovskite, so it's not a constraint. It's more a matter of getting the technology to the point where you can manufacture it and have it durable. And when I spoke here last year, we were still talking about the idea of how many of you know of the missing middle or the valley of death for most climate companies. So we had not passed that, but we closed the Series A last year of $50 million, which allowed us to basically build the factory and order the tools and build this demonstration plant. So I think we've traversed that point. What we need to do with that now is that show how we go from a small scale product to full scale, and then deliver it to customers, which we'll do this year. So we built this factory that's sub-economic scale because you don't want to spend all the money to build it up. But once we do that, then I think we'll have passed the constraint to commercialize. And then because we're building a solar panel that is the same size, and I think everybody here knows there's no market risk on electricity or solar because that's like 90% of all the new energy in the world with batteries. So I think the main thing is this technology risk of scaling it up, which I would characterize it's more of an engineering exercise to go from small to large. We've kind of passed the pure science. So I'm pretty excited. I think people have been talking about perovskites for a decade. We will start commercially selling them this year. And if we're not, you can hold me to it next year in Davos. But that is my prediction and promise to you guys. We'll start selling full-size solar panels with perovskites in 2026.
Yeah. Kennedy, do you have to add to these topics? Maybe when you look at your product, basically, what breaks first when you try to scale? Is it technology? Is it supply chains? Is it the permitting or the capital? Where's the biggest problem?
I think for us, it's the capital. I think the technology we're leveraging that's been deployed commercially before, the pyrolysis technology. Ours is very simple. It's a liquid-to-liquid common solvent. There's nothing rare or difficult to source or produce around it. So the units are modular. It's very easy for us to scale. We just need the capital to do it. So far, we've had great partners on it. We've raised about $50 million in total from United Airlines, Honeywell UOP, who's a leading manufacturer in the refining kind of technology space, as well as receiving grants from Boeing. So we've got a great group of people as stakeholders from the aviation side. We just need the capital to really go out and build our first facilities. So that's what's ahead for us.
It's always about the money.
Always the money.
Yeah. Always money. Okay, so that's the next panel. But before we dive into that, maybe, Mikkel, on the systemic perspectives, if you had the ear of a policymaker, what would be the and also investors, what is the single change that you would make to accelerate deployment?
That's a very good question. I think for a policymaker, I think at least in EU, permitting is a challenge. I think for getting a permit through for one of our plants that doesn't have any in my neighborhood challenges. We are port located. It doesn't smell. There's no noise. It's not polluting. It took 3.5 years in Denmark, and I was to some extent shocked that you want a green transition. We have a great product. Everybody loves the setup, and it takes 3.5 years. And when I complained, they said 3.5 years. That's really, really good. And I guess that's a problem. It should be much faster if you have a project without any challenge at all. It cannot take 3 years. It should take weeks or months maybe, right? So I think that from a policy point of view, I think from an investor point of view, there's still this valley of death. I think we are a very good place now, but it's been challenging to get there. Everybody wants to finance lab things because that's very cheap and you can get a lot of, you can get a good return there. And everybody wants to finance second of a kind plants. And in between you have the valley of death. And sometimes that is I think great ideas die in that place if you're not have a lot of grit in the team to get through that, including have a good business case. But even with a good business case, things are dying there in the valley of death at the moment.
So a combination of regulation and long processes plus capital, I can fully support that because I invested in a carbon positive precast concrete plant myself, and it took us like 2 years or so to set up the actual plant with a technology that has been implemented in another state in Germany, just because of the regulation topic, you know. It's unbelievable. So how's the situation in that respect in the US? You guys maybe can...
Well, I'll just share. I mean, I think U.S. usually it depends where you are. I think there's certain states where it's easier to build than others. But for our first facility, we actually have a brownfield site in Sweden. So there's an existing pyrolysis facility. There's an existing refiner who has invested in that, and so they'll be kind of the off-taker from that facility. So key to kind of leverage, you know, what's out there. It helps, but still the permitting process, you know, has its perils. So. That is not to be overlooked, and I think a major opportunity for policy to be improved is make it easier to build.
Yeah, every conference you go to on this topic, the same thing comes up. It's relatively easy to get early money in R&D. It's easy to get money once you've proven things out perfectly. It's this missing middle. And so everybody acknowledges there's a market failure, but when you ask people who wants to solve it, people go, not me, somebody else should solve it. I think it's pretty clear that there's some combination of public policy, private buyers who can buy it on a portfolio effect without taking the whole risk, and then maybe people in the nonprofit philanthropic world. Instead of donating money, they can actually invest in it where they don't need to make the same returns. And if you have that, then I think you can address the market failure in the same way that when you do public transit, nobody expects someone to pay full price for a metro, right? You subsidize it because you realize it's a public good. So I think we have models in society where we can do it, and why we can't apply those same models to climate, to me, is just a head scratcher. I think, I think probably because no one player can solve it. It needs a consortium, and we know how hard it is to put together consortiums. But we are here in Davos, so if you're listening and you can put that together, I think that's what's needed. Until then, we'll keep whining about how it doesn't work and it'll never work, and I think that's where we are.
Yeah. Anything to add from your side, Erik?
No, nothing as well. We'll have the same thing with this white hydrogen in the EU. They don't know it. It's RFNBO renewable, or it's low carbon hydrogen. In our case, we don't care, because if you produce it for $1 per kilo, you're so cheap that you still find your market. But it's the same thing. It takes time and time and time, and I get mad about it. Yes.
So I think when you can really prove that, in your case, the $1, this will be how do you say? Not a unicorn, well, something more like
centacorn.
Centacorn or whatnot.
Whatever. Then I can invite you all for a coffee next year here in Davos. Yes.
Okay. So with that, maybe to all of you, what is the one takeaway from this panel, maybe looking at all the contributions here in terms of what we learned today, what must be true for the technologies here, or for your technology to be considered a success, and what is this key point? Anyone who wants to start? What must be true?
For me, I want to talk to all of you, because now I wear my green investor hat for the last sentence, because I love every single activity, and I'm so excited that now in this year again, so many new activities. When you say instead of 22%, 40% efficiency, and all of the activities, 4 times more output than this, I love this, because this is what the new renewable energy is all about. You have to start, you mentioned the example of the tube, the subway system, that needs always subsidies. This thing has to be seed funded, start funded, until it gets efficient, and then it'll make all its way and all make the world a better place in the end. That's hopefully what we're all here for as well in Davos.
I'll take a different tack. I'll say that perovskites, whether it's us and Tandem PV or others, it's agreed in the industry, will be the next generation of solar because it's better and cheaper. And just on a positive note, solar today, despite all the rhetoric, for example, in the US, is 90% of all new energy in 2025 in the US was solar and batteries. So despite all the negativity that you read about, the transition is actually happening and it's accelerating. It's going to be 100% this year. Same thing's happening around the world. So solar now is the cheapest energy source and getting better and better with batteries. And what we're doing and others is just going to make it much cheaper. So I expect a much more rapid acceleration to clean energy than some of the bullshit, I'll use the technical term, that I've heard at Davos so far. Everybody's being very negative. And what I'm saying is, this is going to go much faster than people think because the economics are so compelling. It's not a green premium anymore. It's just about greed and something that scales and works. And it's already happening. So I think don't be so sad. It's actually really good news.
One of the things I think we've learned from aviation is that there's no silver bullet for us. So we need all of these technologies. We need hydrogen, we need electric, we need sustainable aviation fuel. But I think to add on to that, we've been surprised. I think, the conversation, the progress has maybe gone a little bit underground, but even in the US, we actually have a renewable fuels obligation that fuel suppliers have to meet. And a lot of the times it's more towards the ethanol industry, but sustainable aviation fuels can qualify for credits underneath that. And that's a big part of the value stack. Those obligations have actually been expanded and have never been as high as they are as set for this year, next year, and the year after. So we're still seeing, the goal be raised. We're just not talking about it the same way that we used to. So the progress is still happening, just in a little bit of a different form. So that gives me hope for the long term, and that yes, we might wake up all of a sudden this is moving a lot faster than we thought.
Yeah, I think for me, if you look back just a few years ago, we talked a lot about green transition, and that was hopeful and a bright future. Not a lot happened. Today we are in Denmark at least not talking about green transition about Davos. We are talking about green land. Nothing about energy at all. But I get very positive sitting here because we might not talk about green transition a lot. We talk about getting costs down on fossil or on green fuels, and that might not be an altruistic, let's save the world approach. It'd be very business focused. However, I think the likelihood of us being successful with the green transition is actually increasing from us focusing on unit cost rather than CO2 abatement. So in that sense, I think we'll end the right place. Just another route when it comes to the discussions around it.
Yeah, I think that was a very, very good, almost closing statement here. And with that, I fully agree to the statements that were made here. I think key problem, if it's takeaway that I can have here, is that we need to advance these technologies. We need to prove, or you need to prove with your ventures that they actually work, that they deliver, that the unit economics work, and then you will also find the investors and convince the investors, unlock the private capital to scale that, and this will deliver in the end the results in terms of decarbonization, energy independence, etc., that we all are looking for. With that, I think we are at the end of this first panel. I thank you very much for your contributions and give them a round of applause here, the panelists.